Hi guys, this is Rose and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to discuss how to prepare sales invoice or tax invoice under retail business. But before we start, let's have a recap regarding the PO and the bill that we prepared under retail business. So please make sure that you've done this procedure before I proceed on creating sales invoice. The reason is for you to double check if all the items that were sold have an existing stock on hand balance in our Zoho accounting software. So we don't have problem later on when we conduct an audit, or someone will conduct an audit, or will do the actual count of the inventory. And let's say let's forget about accounting. Let's just imagine a normal scenario. You cannot sell if you don't have stock, right? So it's the same with accounting software. You cannot post any sales or receivable if we don't have existing inventory, because later on inventory will be converted as cost once we posted the sales invoice. So let's start an example for you to have a clear picture or overview of what I'm preparing. So let's open our Zoho books, then open invoices. So retail business, it's not that complicated because no need for you to consider the sales quotation or the sales order or pro forma invoice. That's only under supplier side. But for the customer side, most of the time when we observe, you must have a contract. You must have a one contract with the customer. What are the terms and conditions, the rates or the markup or the discount, all are specified in one contract. If there's an amendment in one of those conditions, then they'll do the revision of the contract. But after that, it depends on the customer if they're gonna send the order, the list of items to be ordered either by WhatsApp, either by email, or other customers, they have their own purchase order that will be forwarded to us. Then that's our basis in generating the tax invoice. But most of the time, after we posted the PO and bill in Zoho accounting software, we're gonna direct on preparing the inventory adjustments, and after that we can have the sales invoice. So that's it only. It will compare to that other business, the sourcing and procurement, is a different side. So for now, let's focus on generating sales invoice or tax invoice under retail business. So let's have an example. Here's our customer, for example, Secret Boutique. So as I've remembered before, Secret Boutique had paid already 400 dirhams. So now let's create an invoice to close that advance payment that Secret Boutique made. Invoice reference, we can change that based on what sequence we would like to follow. So for now, let's keep that as is. For order number, this refer to, guys, it's better that you have posted also the customer's reference here. So later, if you're asked or they would like to retract one transaction, then if you put the reference in your document, then you can easily retract also on your record. So what we usually follow this advice to include the customer's reference when generating a sales invoice. So for example, we'll put here customer PO 12345. So when customer called you or send you an email that they would like to request a copy of PO 12345, so this means that that's their reference. Then when you view your Zoho books, then you can also see the same reference what they're referring to. Okay, so the date, let's, for example, today, October 24. Then here, so for example, disposable mask per piece. So we have existing stock on hand of 750. For example, Secret Boutique would like to purchase 200. Then the rate is 2, so now we have 400. Okay. So always make sure that you have enough stock on hand before you generate a sales invoice or tax invoice, because this will help you, or this will also help the inventory controller, because you will notify them in case that the stock on hand is reflecting 0. Please immediately inform the inventory controller to do some adjustments if there are adjustments that he needs to input in Zoho accounting software. So let's have an overview. What is the accounting entry of this invoice? Because most of the time we're just focusing on providing or inputting the basic information like the customer name, recipe number, the date, the due date, but we're not knowledgeable what's the accounting entry for this invoice after we posted the sales invoice. So just click this side, then you can see here sales. So after we post this sales invoice, it will immediately reflect as accounts receivable on the balance sheet side. The balance sheet side is a permanent position. It's a report about permanent position. It means that later on I'm gonna discuss that in details. But for now, I'm just explaining how. Let's have an overview of what are the entries of each document. So for sales invoice, when we posted a sales invoice, accounts receivable, it means we're acknowledging receivable. Secret Boutique has a payable to us. So under the book of Secret Boutique, they are acknowledging a payable of 400 to us. But under our book, we're acknowledging a receivable from Secret Boutique. Then sales. Sales means we're acknowledging an income. Sales is another term for income. So let's save this one. So save as draft. So you can save as draft the document for now. Then you can reopen it again to review all the data. So that's the advice that I can give you, that after you input all the data, please close the document and reopen it again for rechecking. So always review the rate, the quantity, the items or the products that you've selected, and please make sure that the products or items it's connected to inventory asset when you receive it as a bill. Most of us are very familiar in how to prepare an invoice, but not all of us are knowledgeable on when it comes to accounting entries. So that's why I'm explaining here that regardless of what software we are using, the entry when we post a sales invoice this is the entry this is always the entry of sales invoice or tax invoice. First, we acknowledge a receivable, and then we also recognize a sales. After that, we close the inventory if you remembered, we receive an inventory under bill module. We close the inventory and then we acknowledge cost. This is always the compound entry. That's what we call in accounting, compound entry when posting a sales invoice. So regardless of the software or the system that you are using, these four entries, the receivable, the cost of goods sold, the inventory, and the sales, they are always available in each software that we are using. So later on, you'll understand the importance of posting the sales invoice, because it's not just a document that our customer requires when delivering the item. This sales invoice is linked to our financial report, the balance sheet, and the profit and loss statement. So I would like to emphasize here that even though we have not physically received the inventory, but in recording in accounting software, we always recognize the item as an inventory first. Then later on, once we posted the sales invoice, only then automatically the system had created a link or a formula to close this inventory to cost, because it's incorrect that you're just acknowledging a sales without the cost, right? So let's imagine a normal scenario again. That let's forget about accounting now. Let's just imagine a normal scenario that you can't sell if you don't have existing inventory. So it's the same with Zoho books. We cannot post a sales invoice if we don't have existing inventory, because when we posted a sales invoice and we don't have inventory, then our profit and loss statement is just showing sales and we don't have the cost. So it means that your profit is showing over of a certain amount because one transaction doesn't have cost. So that's it for tonight. Have a nice evening.